Welcome, everybody, to the first Friday Cafe of 2021. I'm Judy Carson with the State Department of Education, and it's my pleasure to see all of you for this Friday Cafe. We haven't met since December 11th, and it seems like a lot's happened in the world. And I'm really happy to be with our community this morning, talking about family engagement and thinking about young children. And so we have some very exciting information for you and some tools for you, and a chance to talk about connecting with families in the early years, which we know is so important. I'm joined, as always, by my colleague and friend, Betsy Laborious. And so we'll be taking you through this morning's wonderful Friday Cafe. So here's our all-star lineup today. So we're going to kick it off with my colleague, Andrea Brinnel from the State Department of Education, who was our matchmaker today and brought this wonderful idea to Friday Cafe. And then we're going to hear about something called Sparkler. It's really a collaborative endeavor from community partners and state agencies. And Abby Alter from Child Health and Development Institute will introduce that. Then we'll hear from Amanda Heath. And Amanda is with 211 Child Development. And we'll hear from Julia Levy, who's the Executive Director of Sparkler. And also we have voices from the field. So we have family and provider perspectives. We have Sandra and Stephanie and Lorraine and Abby Callow. So I'm going to just turn it right over to Andrea to launch us into the wonderful world of transition to kindergarten.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. I see a lot of familiar names and a lot of new friends, so I'm really appreciative to have been invited. So in order to set the context for our main presenters, I'm going to talk a little bit about transition to kindergarten. We're approaching the time of year when parents of children who are eligible for kindergarten in the fall start to think about this topic with some urgency, and school districts are starting to plan and communicate with families about their specific kindergarten registration processes, and they will continue to do so over the spring. In a typical year, there's lots to think about, but this year there are some certainly unique considerations that are on both parents and school districts' minds. On this slide, you can see that the Department of Education does have a flyer that you're able to download in Spanish and English about kindergarten entry, enrollment, and attendance. I've given you the link to access them at the bottom of the slide. If you have difficulty finding it, I'm sure you can reach out to Judy or reach directly out to me and we can help you locate it on the website. As I'm sure that you know, Connecticut's only requirement for kindergarten attendance is that a child be 5 on or before January 1st of a given school year. There are no requirements other than being 5 by this date. There are often questions about readiness, but again, there's no statutory requirement to entry for kindergarten other than being 5 on or before January 1st as the cutoff date. That being said, parents are sometimes concerned that their child is just not ready for kindergarten. There are a few things that I always ask them to consider, and I do start getting calls this time of the year. I will ask if their child has been identified with special needs under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. If they are, they should have an IEP that is reasonably calculated for them to access their education in kindergarten. When I worked in a school district, I would often ask teams and parents if not sending a child to kindergarten would have an impact on that child's disability. If not, and typically it was unlikely that the retention would change the disability, then in the vast majority of cases, kindergarten would be where they would go to learn with their peers. Parents need to know that if they choose not to send their child that's age eligible for kindergarten and the child has an IEP, then they will most likely be considered opting out of kindergarten, which they are able to do. The consequence of opting a child out of kindergarten with an IEP is that the school district is then not required to provide special education services. And this sometimes comes as quite a surprise. As I mentioned, in Connecticut, we do have a statutory provision that allows parents to opt out of school until their child is 6 or 7. If a parent chooses this route, they're supposed to let the district know and complete a district opt-out form. There's more information on the flyer about this, and you have the link to it. Given our unusual circumstances this year, there may be parents who are concerned about their child's development or the instruction they've missed this year, and that will certainly color their decision-making process. That's one of the reasons we want to let you know about a wonderful partnership the Department of Education has recently entered with the folks at Sparkler. We're going to hear from our Sparkler associates about how this partnership can help both with identifying if a child may be having a developmental issue, and also how children's development can be supported. Both are really important as we think about how we can support children and families in entering kindergarten when they're age eligible. I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues at Sparkler to tell you more.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Andrea, and everyone for having us here. We're so excited to get the chance to talk to you all this morning. I'm Julia, by the way, and I think we're starting with the poll, and so Glorimar, can I turn it over to you for this piece? Oh, good. So everybody take a couple minutes and answer these quick questions just to get the conversation started.
In your opinion, what's the best way to engage young families, 0 to 5? So overwhelmingly, it looks like 63% said regular communications. We had some votes for dance parties, which I always think is fun. Free food is fun. Free stuff and other. I totally agree with all of these, but I think we can all agree that regular communications is probably the best way to keep communicating with our families. So I'm just going to go through these. How many brain cells develop? Each second. This is crazy, right? In the first few years. So we have overwhelmingly, we have almost a tie. So we have 100,000 brain cells. We have 35% people voted for that, and 31% voted for 1 million. And actually the answer is 1 million. Seems a little crazy, right? But that is why we're going to talk about this as we start our presentation, why the brain architecture is so important in that first 3 months. Let's see, what percent of you, I'm not sure, okay. What percent of US families read to their 0 to 6-year-olds less than 4 days a week? So most people say with the 45%, say 43% of US families read, and then the runner-up was at 24%, 77%. The answer is actually 43%. I like this vote of confidence that everyone had with the 77%, but as you probably know, and you know, it's challenging for all of us to actually really keep encouraging families to start that reading, even when the child is a baby. And reading doesn't have to be telling the story. Reading can be pointing out pictures on a page. So that, just wanted to keep that in mind. And then the last question was kind of a fun, silly question. What's Sparkler? Yes, a Sparkler is a handheld firework. You're absolutely right. It's also a family engagement app. We had no votes for gemstone or sparkling wine, which I'm surprised about at this point, right? During the pandemic, I think a lot of us are sparkly, and then all of the above. So probably the answer is really all of the above. So all of us got it somewhat wrong, because I was even thinking that it would be 1 or 2. But today we're here to talk to you about the family engagement app. So thanks for participating in that. And then I'm going to just minimize, I don't want to see myself. Okay. So a lot of this is kind of preaching to the choir and preaching to the knowledge that you guys probably have, but we wanted to just reiterate and just really emphasize the importance that early childhood has on a child's life. And mainly it's because of this brain growth over time. Brain architecture, we know now from all of the studies that have gone on with the brain, that architecture starts before birth and continues into adulthood. And it is affected by genes and, most importantly, a child's experience. So there are neural connections and skills that form first, but the more complex circuits and skills follow. So here's back to that question. In the first few years of life, more than 1 million new it's the neural connections are being formed every second in those first 3 years of life. And why is that important? Again, you guys probably could write books about this and train us about this, but we really want to stress the relationship between children and the grown-ups in their life, which has a really important impact on their chance to grow up strong and have a healthy development. So the grown-ups in our lives help us as babies in the first 3 years of life create opportunities for children to learn and grow. And the best learning happens during responsive, warm, joyful interactions between children and the adults that take care of them. So Sparkler has really taken on this idea in this new, it's not new, but in this mobile application where we want and we have the ability to have families use Sparkler as a tool to incite some of those interactions. As we know, unfortunately, because of COVID, my least favorite topic, is that half of American children who would regularly be in school are home during the pandemic. And we also know as a state and as a nation that developmental screening is definitely down. So a parent's role is always important and we can't mitigate that, but it's especially important right now where many of the children that are growing up are not seeing other adults in their lives because of COVID.
Thank you, Abby. I and my colleague Amanda Heath from 211 Child Development are now going to go through this question that we're here to talk you through today, which is what is Sparkler and how do we work with our colleagues at 211 Child Development to support Connecticut families. Sparkler for families, first of all, is a mobile app. It's in English and Spanish. It's for iOS and Android, and it gives parents 3 core things. First is developmental screening. So we have the ASQ3 and the ASQ-SE. Second, standards aligned activities for parents and children to play together off screen that promote learning. And third is connection with professionals or each other. So through the app, parents can connect with Amanda or her colleagues at 211 Child Development, or if their schools and teachers are using it, they can connect with their schools and teachers for advice. And for providers like schools or other organizations who are using Sparkler, the app can allow them to see what families see using the app, or they can use our web-based dashboard to monitor trends or interact with the families that they serve. Now we are going to just go through the core pieces of the mobile app, which are Know, Play, Grow, and Connect. And for Know, I'm going to pass it over to Amanda.
I'm Amanda Heath from 211 Child Development. So through Sparkler, families are able to use the Know tab to access a mobile version of the Ages and Stages questionnaire, either the ASQ3 or the ASQ-SE. And it's the same version that you may be familiar with if you have used it. It's just in a more mobile format. Once a family completes an ASQ and presses submit, Sparkler automatically scores the ASQ. The results go to the ASQ online system, 211 Child Development, and to the Sparkler dashboard. The family will receive a coaching message through Sparkler that the results have been received. The content of this coaching message will depend on the score as well as who is taking the lead. In most cases, 211 Child Development will take the lead with families. If all domains score on track, the coaching message will let the family know that the child's doing well in all areas of growth and development and will be notified when the next ASQ is due. If one domain scores within Monitor, the coaching message then shares the area that the child could use extra attention, and we provide play activities that are in Sparkler that can be used to support the child's development within that domain. If 2 domains score within Monitor, or 1 or more score within Refer, the coaching message will then introduce the family to 211 Child Development and let them know that a care coordinator will be reaching out to discuss the results. At 211 Child Development, we support children's healthy growth and development starting in pregnancy. We can connect families to programs, services, information, and much more. We will work with the family to find the best resources needed, including doing research to ensure the resource is available and meets the family's needs, and then we will follow up with the family to make sure they are connected. Our care coordinators can help families access Help Me Grow for connections to community-based services and supports. such as home visiting, parenting education programs, parent-child activity programs, parent-to-parent supports, medical home initiative, and behavioral health supports. Birth to 3 services for children under 3 with developmental delays, early childhood special education for children ages 3 to 5 with delays in development, as well as other 2-1 services such as housing, basic needs, social service programs, crisis intervention, childcare, and care for kids. If a community or program would like to take the lead, this can be decided on a case-by-case basis. A program would need a cohort code created in order to have their families connected to them and have access to their own Sparkler dashboard. This would allow the program to sign into the Sparkler dashboard, see the families connected with them, and download a family-friendly report to share for any completed ASQs. When a program takes the lead, the family receives a coaching message to let them know that someone from their program will reach out to share the results. 211 Child Development will also send a message to the program contact, letting them know that one of their families has completed an ASQ. At 211 Child Development, we're here to support families and programs in answering questions about the ASQ, as well as accessing resources.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so I'm now going to go through the other parts of Sparkler before we get to the most exciting part of this, which is hearing from people who are actually using it around the state already. So the next section here is called Play, which is really core to the Sparkler experience. In addition to having this moment in time when families are checking in on their child's development, we offer them ongoing co-play ideas. So a parent can find an activity that's aligned with different standards, put down their phone and play with their child to help them learn skills that they're focused on as a family. As parents and children play, Sparkler helps families visualize their accomplishments so they can see how much they've worked toward growing their child's heart, mind, body, and words, which are what we call the 4 developmental domains. And then they can click on the icons that you see on the left to find more activities to advance each area. Families can take pictures and as they play and keep track and grow of what they accomplished together. So there you see my son painting a pumpkin, but if it's your child, you'll see your child doing the amazing things that all kids are doing to grow their little minds. You can, under Connect, we have pretty robust 2-way messaging. We allow families to connect with each other. So a parent could connect with a grandparent and they could work together to advance a child's learning in the early years. We also send out messages to families, like little nudge messages to help them, little reminders, or if you're, as you said, as Amanda outlined, 211 Child Development is in touch with families via coaching to support them through the screening process. There's 2 real ways that educators and providers in the state of Connecticut can use Sparkler. Way 1, which is on the left here, is they can use Sparkler, they can sort of promote Sparkler to families. Families can download the app, they can take the screening, they can play, and they can work on the skills that they want to work on with their children independently. The second way, which is here on the right, is the educator can create a unique code so that it allows them to connect with their families, see their families' progress, and then engage directly in 2-way communication with their families. So either is totally fine, and we have built the system to be as flexible as it can be so that different educators in different communities can accomplish their goals using the tool. This is on the educator dashboard. You can both see those high-level trends, what's happening across a class or throughout a school, and then you can dive in and see the individual child. You can see their ISQ results. You can see if they liked the activities or didn't like them, if they were on the right level or not. You can see what they've played, and if they've shared pictures of the work that they've created, you can see that work. You can also access those, a lot of data reports, CSV files, and family-friendly PDFs about the ASQ results. one of the coolest things for people who choose to use the dashboard in this way is they're able to really see children's work. So it's like a window into what's going on, and that's especially powerful, or can be right now, when some children might be learning and playing at home and not in schools as much as they normally are. And this just shows the messaging from the provider point of view. You send a message from the dashboard, which is on the web, and it goes to a family's phone. Now I am going to turn it over to Abby, who is going to tell you a little bit about our evolution in the state and what's happening in 2021.
So some of you I've noticed on the chat that we actually do have some of these partners on the call, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of history about the Sparkler initiative. The Office of Early Childhood piloted the project initially with a group of early care and education providers in Hartford and Bridgeport, which was our first kind of rollout of the project. And today we actually have a couple of those partners on that's going to talk about a little bit about their experience. The next phase in was through this preschool development grant, where we did a RFA with 6 communities, Bristol, Danbury, Manchester, New Haven, Stamford, and Waterbury. And each of those communities kind of came to us with different ideas on how they would expand Sparkler in their communities, with kind of, some included early care and education, some are family resource centers, and there's all different kind of models. We also, over the summer or in May, we trained the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood home visitors to take the app and use it in their virtual visits that they were doing, and this is on a statewide level. The goals of the Sparkler initiative really include a few different things. Obviously, one is to improve screening rates through this mobile app. And the other purpose that is really important is to increase family engagement. So the idea that we're building both capacity of parents to understand why you would screen and observe, and what's the importance of these activities. And also, we were really interested in seeing a stronger referral and follow-up process. So this year, we're very excited, and it's actually pretty timely. The Office of Early Childhood is going to be offering Sparkler through partners across the entire state. To all people that serve families, children 0 to 5. So this is kind of slowly happening with various partnerships that we're doing, but at some point, it kind of, we would like, we'd like to see the entire state using the app. So we're very excited about that.
This is the best part of the presentation, and hopefully my video works. So we have voices from 3 different partners who have been working with us in our pilots, who are going to share their experiences. One of them, Sandra, couldn't be with us this morning, so we recorded her. Hopefully this works. I'm going to attempt to press play.
Hi, I am Sandra Godin. I'm the coordinator and lead parent educator at Greenhouse School Family Resource Center in Bristol. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what our experience with Sparkler has been. So this is year 2 for us. Last year was a pilot year, and this is our 2nd year with offering the Sparkler program to families as a replacement and or supplement to using the regular ASQ forms. Family resource centers have used the ASQs with our families for quite some time. So the ASQs themselves wasn't new for us, but using in the Sparkler format was what the new introduction was. One of the things that we do find particularly helpful about Sparkler versus the traditional ASQ is that with the Sparkler program, there's more ongoing support available. So when a family, for example, completes an Ages and Stages questionnaire, they are receiving play cards that tell them about different activities that they could try with their child. They are able to adjust ages if they need to. So we had one family that we signed up, for example, whose child was over the age of where you'd usually be giving an ASQ, but developmentally that child was 3. And so we were able to have the parent just put in the child's birthday for the developmental age, and then they were being given play activities to supplement some of what they were getting from what they had been getting before from their birth to 3 provider, to have more age appropriate kind of activities for that child's developmental age. I also really like that there's follow-up available, because we're a school year based program. We're not really working very much during the summer, for pretty minimal hours. And so one of the nice things is that if I have families that have something sort of pop up, and need a little bit more ongoing support, I'm able to pass those families off to Amanda over at 211 Child Development, and she follows up with them through the summer months, and then I pick them back up with them in the fall. So there's a little bit more ongoing support for our families that way, that are coordinated through the Sparkler program. And we have coordination all the time involved with that too. So when a family completes an ASQ and it comes up that there's some sort of something that's in a monitor stage, or something that's at a referral level, I don't just have to go into Sparkler to look for those. I actually get an email flag from Amanda at Child Development Info Line, or 211 Child Development, and she's able to, to just kind of give me a heads up that one of them popped up with one of those flags for me to be able to get in touch with that family, and just get some more information, find out if there's ways that we can support them and what kind of referral might be appropriate for that family. So we find it helpful for that. The app itself also has a dashboard, which lets you be able to see what all the results are. It allows us to be able to send follow-ups, to send push reminders to parents, to send information about milestones or suggested activities. There might be an activity that's seasonally appropriate. So it lets us be able to have an additional way of being able to have some ongoing communication with families, rather than just, completing the form and then, doing the next one at whatever stage your program requires the next ASQ to be done. So we found it very helpful for that higher level of support and the more ongoing support that it does provide. And that sort of immediate gratification for the parent, and for the parent to be able to feel that they have that connection with somebody that is following up with them, and the additional activities that go along with the kind of things that are on an ages and stages questionnaire. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And, we've been enjoying using the app, and I hope you do too.
Okay, this is next. I'm going to introduce Stephanie. We got her title wrong on this slide, and I apologize. She's actually the assistant director at the Women's League Child Development Center in Hartford. So Stephanie, if you could unmute and share your perspective.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we were part of the School Readiness Pilot Program, as Abby mentioned before, and we're on maybe 2.5 years now using Sparkler. So previously, we were using the paper copy of the Ages and Stages questionnaire for our families, but we find that the app is very convenient for most of our families, and they're more apt to complete the Ages and Stages questionnaire through the app, through Sparkler. So what we do is we conduct this screen twice a year. So we ask our families to upload the app. They're given the code. They fill out the first one within 30 days of entering our program. And then they get alerted to when they have to conduct the second one. And once the teacher and the family conducts the Ages and Stages questionnaire, we're able to learn and see where children are, so that when we start planning for our children, we can individualize for the children's needs based on their development. This also helps families understand what milestones children go through in their learning. And with the app itself, then they can go to the activity library and select the activity to build on that skill. And, we want to promote that brain development because it sparks and it keeps that learning going. As we conduct these screenings, it also builds that partnership for the teacher and the parent, so that if there is a monitoring or a child has been identified that they need additional supports, we can go right through the resources that are made available. Teachers can talk to families. We can do referrals here at the school, or they can get a phone call from Amanda with the coaches that will explain the next steps so that they're able to get that support in their learning style. We just find the tool to be extremely well organized for our families. And once again, because it's electronic, it's very convenient. So families don't mind doing it. And, you know, with the pandemic, when we were closed, we refer to them to go and conduct some of those activities at home. So we love the program, and we're going to keep going with it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm going to scoot past Lorraine, who unfortunately was unable to join us today, but who works with Stephanie. And if any of you want to hear this perspective of a mom and a teacher who've used Sparkler with both hats on, we might have to record her at a future date and share that with this group. And turn it over to Abby Callow, who is going to unmute herself and share her perspective.
Hi everyone, my name is Abby. I have kind of a dual role in how I get started with Sparkler. I am one of the Early Care and Education Collaborative Action Network co-chairs in the city through Bridge to Success. And I am also the Director of Child Development at the Laboratory School for the Early Childhood Education Department at Naugatuck Valley Community College. So in my role as a co-chair for the CAN, we had a goal of having a universal screening tool for the city of Waterbury. We wanted to make sure that we could reach all children, all families, and it took us quite some time because every program was using something different. The public schools were using something different. And when the opportunity for using the Sparkler app with the ASQ came about, we definitely jumped on that opportunity. And then I became one of the pilot centers for using the app with my families. And we started last spring, but COVID happened, and then we went remote, and it was very difficult to get our families to kind of come back in. Everybody was dealing with the kind of the trauma of all of this. And so this year what we did is we made it part of our enrollment process. And so all of our families that come in complete the ASQ, download the Sparkler app, complete the ASQ, and then we get to use that as baseline data. The teachers look at it. One of the things I love about it so much is that it's a way for families to partner with centers and be a part of their child's education. It gives us that family perspective. We're not working in a silo as a school. We're working together with families who are their children's first teachers. One thing that we've talked about extensively in the city through, multiple organizations in early childhood is that people don't necessarily know the importance of early childhood. They don't understand the amount of growth that children have and the effect on their human development, and not just them as children. So the Sparkler app has really, really developmentally appropriate activities for families to use, and the information they gain to understand that early childhood is not just a place for children to go while people are at work or at school, and that really serious deep learning is happening, and that it's all based on research and brain research and science. So how important early childhood is, and this screening tool has helped immensely for families to see kind of what the results are of these activities. So some of the successes, those offline activities are amazing. The family's understanding of child development increases. And we use this as just a portion of our assessment for children, and work closely with 211 to try and get those supports to our families. So we did choose to contact our families directly. And, getting families to fill out accurately can be a challenge. So we're just definitely changing our approach to make sure we support our families in completion. And my hopes for the future is that we are able to reach all children and get them to be able to use something that will inform families of their child's development, where they are, and what we can do to help their development moving forward.
Hi, everyone. We're all back, I think. I see a lot of faces. So this is our moment when we share what we discuss. So let's just go in order, A through E. So with the first group, please share what they discussed about how to build buzz.
Our group, my name's Colleen, by the way, and in our breakout group, we discussed about how are we going to roll this out to our community. One of the big things we talked about was partnerships with other established organizations and groups within our community in order to build trust, in order for families to use this app with confidence. The other thing we talked about was that, and some of the organizations, that we talked about sharing it with were local pediatricians, OBGYN, CPAC, teen parenting groups, organizations like DCF. Also, we talked about using parent ambassadors from our community, looking at parent leaders in our community and having them use the app and then share their experience with others. We also discussed the fact that we would like to educate personnel in different programs about the app so that they have a better understanding and we're able to share it with knowledge. And lastly, we discussed about having user-friendly documents to put on social media. Right now, my district sent me documents for about Sparkler to put on our different Facebook pages, and really it's difficult to take a PDF and post it. I mean, there's a lot of information there, and so not being a graphic designer, I had a little difficulty with that, but you want to make it something that people are going to look at and engage with. So it would be helpful to have that.
Thank you. And quickly responding to that, I know so Andrea and her team shared out a bunch of materials, and if there are other things that you need to share with your community, like clear materials, definitely be in touch, because we can help you with that, and we'd love to support that and create, we can't do a different flyer for each community in the state, but we can definitely make something that works better for more people. So email us, and we'd love to help with that. Next group can share about, oh wait, that's me. How are you engaging young families? Oh wait, yeah, that is me. And how could Sparkler complement or enhance your approach? So in our group, we had some participants who were already using Sparkler, like Donna from Bristol at the United Way there. We had others who haven't used it yet. We spent most of our time talking about just engagement in general and how it's been a challenge during this moment in time. So we had some conversation about strategies that different groups are using to effectively communicate with families and engage with families. So having virtual events like readings and playgroups and speakers. And it sounds like there's a lot going on to try to bring people in and keep them engaged, especially when they're not able to gather in the normal places where people gather. And there was also some conversation about how it's been a really hard year to engage with people when they aren't together. And also when a lot of families struggle with lack of access to technology and lack of access to the internet. So that's an issue that some communities have worked to address by providing either technology or hotspots, and some communities are still learning about. And one thing I shared with the group, which I think is a good thing about Sparkler, is you can download it when you're on Wi-Fi, but then you can play offline. So you can take a screening, you can do the ASQ, or you can play when you're not connected to the internet. So you don't need, like for Zoom, you need to be constantly connected. For Sparkler, you don't, and then it uploads the information the next time you are on Wi-Fi. So it makes it a little bit more accessible for people, but obviously there's bigger societal issues here that hopefully as a bigger community we can help people solve. I think that was the bulk of what we discussed. Moving to Group C, does one of you want to present?
Yeah, I'm going to toss it to our participants. We had a good conversation about why the idea of encouraging families is important and also why it's difficult right now when we're remote and some of the opportunities we used to have, we don't have now. So I'm going to ask Stephanie, though, to talk about some things that have worked for encouraging families. And then I'm going to ask one of the Sparkler team members to speak to a question that came up about confidentiality. So Stephanie, you want to say a few words about what you told us in the session?
So when we were first presented with the pilot for Sparkler at Women's League, we had an incentive for families that was given through us through the OEC, and that was with each family who downloaded the app, they received a $10 Amazon card. And the program also received gift cards in regards to Amazon. But we also had an in-house competition with classroom teachers so that we could keep motivating our families to sign up. So we kind of posted who was the first classroom to achieve all families signed up. We had, little gift bags for them so that, we kept promoting the Sparkler app for our families so that they, would download the app and participate with us. So those are a few things that we did.
Thank you. And I know not everybody can do a gift card, but I like the in-house competition. That can go far. And then the question we had about confidentiality was wondering if parents have any concerns about sharing their data and if they know where their data is going and how that is explained to parents and also providers.
That's a great question. And obviously, like I'm a parent, many people on this call are parents, and you should be concerned about your child's information. And the answer to it is that when you sign up for Sparkler, when you're going through the registration process, one of the things you see is our terms of service and our privacy policy, which lays all of this out. But essentially, in signing up, you agree to so-called sponsoring partners seeing your child's information. And in the case of Connecticut, the sponsoring partners are the Office of Early Childhood and 211 Child Development. And so those are the people who see it. We don't share children's information with anyone else. We're FERPA certified. And that's the answer. But if there's any other more specific questions or concerns, I would encourage you to raise them with us and we can try to address them or explain how we keep everybody's information safe if there's something specific.
Julia, if a provider wanted to see a child's information, how would you respond to that?
So if there's an additional partner that's part of the state, that would be an additional consent by the parent. So the parent would have to say, yes, it's okay that my preschool teacher also sees my child's information. And then they'd consent to that organization being an additional sponsoring partner. And then we would be able to grant that additional organization access to see that child's results. So it's really in the parent's hands is the short version of it. It's the parent's responsibility to say, yes, I'm comfortable sharing my child's results with these organizations, or no, I'm not comfortable, in which case they wouldn't use the app at all or wouldn't choose to link with additional organizations.
So, Julia, while you're talking about linking with organizations, if there's an organization represented on this call that has posted or providing information to parents about Sparkler, how would that organization, including public schools, get the code so parents can say, yes, I want my information linked to that particular organization?
So the way that we set it up with you all is that the districts are promoting. It was when I laid out the two different ways of sharing Sparkler. It was promoting Sparkler to families so they could use it independently with help from 211 Child Development, or the other, which was having a code. If there are organizations represented here or elsewhere that want to have that move into the second category, they just have to reach out. We can help them set up a code, and then give their parents the option of linking up with them, which hopefully answers your question. But it's a pretty easy process. We just generate a little code that a parent uses. Right now, they have to use it during the registration process, but in the future, they'll be able to do it at any time. And that's not in the too far distant future. It's this winter or spring. And so there's a lot of potential there. If instead of just a district, you represent a school or any sort of organization that serves young families that wants to directly see the data and engage with the families. So should we move to Group D? What tools and resources do young families need right now, Amanda and team?
Yes. So we had a lot of conversation about tools or resources that programs already had in place. And some programs were also already familiar with Sparkler, mostly through use of it in their programs or being able to promote it. And what we heard a lot was that, you know, families, especially right now, are looking for ways to be able to socialize their child. You know, even with the pandemic going on, they haven't been able to interact or, you know, see other children. So they're looking for ways to be able to do that. But we also talked about ways that programs could engage families from 0 to 3. There were, you know, we focus a lot along the preschool age as they're transitioning to kindergarten. You know, parents are focused on making sure that their child's ready, but we're missing a piece for those younger children. And so we talked a lot about how maybe Sparkler may be helpful for that, in engaging those families that aren't necessarily thinking about, you know, what's to come ahead as far as that goes.
We're up to the final group about how are you currently doing screening and ideas for modernizing screening. Abby, are you on? Are you muted?
I'm muted. Sorry. It's an everyday occurrence. So in our group, we had people from Danbury, Windsor, Torrington, Brooklyn, New Haven, and I think it's Youngstown, but I don't know for sure. I'm sorry. But we talked a little bit about, it was kind of a mixed bag of people that were screening with a paper, ASQ, and then there were actually some people who are not that familiar with ASQ. So we kind of talked a little bit about that, and then the idea that that the app could be extremely useful. And we had a few FRCs on our call, so they're very interested on our breakout, in also bringing the app to their FRC. I actually thought we had more time, so we didn't really get too crazy into it, but it is Youngstown, Ohio.
Probably Ohio, Abby, because we are national. A lot of people come to our Friday Cafe from other states.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. So we have to, I don't know about our ability to give Sparkler to Ohio at this point, but maybe you could email Julia, talk to Julia about it. But I think the overwhelming response in our group is that there is interest. There are training needs around it. And in fact, that's really, I think people are like ready, and it's the perfect timing, we think, to kind of introduce the idea of an app. Okay.
Awesome, thank you. Betsy, is this when I pass it back to you?
This is kind of this is where we put a bow on what we've done in terms of folks having the opportunity to get some great information. So I thank Andrea, certainly Abby, and and also Karina, who was in our group as far as 2-on-1. I think that it's a great combination of folks here that can not only give information but also answer questions for people. So congratulations. This was a wonderful group. So I think we just ended our polling. We have about 5 minutes left. This is I want to thank all the participants for really being on task as far as the agenda. I think that we we really accomplished our purpose. If this is the first time that you've been at one of the Friday cafes, we welcome your participation in ongoing Friday cafes. There are always interesting topics. You get to meet a lot of different people. Thank you to OEC and our early childhood providers. I've worked many years with family resource centers. You're little gems and the work that you do with schools and communities. And so please consider coming back to Friday Cafe. Our next Friday Cafe, we take a break in February, but our next Friday Cafe will be in March, and I'm looking March 5th. So because you have registered, we don't let you go. We will make sure and send you an email for the next Friday Cafe and the topic in terms of what we'll be presenting in March. Does anybody else have any other questions or last minute? What I would also like to say is Friday Cafe, we partner with the State Department of Education and other partners, but this is also the funding helps us through a federal fund from the U.S. Department of Education. And so I'm going to give you also the website for the Connecticut Family School Partnerships Network for Learning, and that is, and I'll put it in the we'll put it in the chat, which is www.ct-fsp.org. So we'll also put that, and you can see a lot of tips in there. And hopefully what we will also do, we'll talk to Karina and with Andrea to see if we can also post that information on that particular website as well. So I don't know if there are any other last minute comments. Andrea, do you want to wrap it up one more time, or are we good?
No, thank you so much for having us, and thank you I love how Judy said, I've been called lots of things, but not a matchmaker, so I can add that to my list. Thank you so much for inviting both myself and for my colleagues at Sparkler. And if you have any questions, I would encourage anybody to reach directly out to the folks at Sparkler or get a hold of me. Or if you don't remember our email addresses, get in touch with Judy and she'll make sure your message gets to one of us. But we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And we hope that Sparkler is just going to be another wonderful tool that you can use with families.